My name is Elena, and I never imagined that the person I trusted most in the world would be the one to destroy everything I knew. It was a cold October evening in Portland, Oregon, when my life changed forever. The rain was relentless that night, drumming against the windshield of our car as we drove through the winding roads of the Columbia River Gorge. My husband, Derek, was behind the wheel, and I sat in the passenger seat, watching the dark trees blur past us. We had been married for 7 years, and I thought I knew him completely. Derek was charming, successful, and everyone in our social circle admired him. He worked as a financial advisor, and I had always been proud of his accomplishments. But that night, something felt different. There was a tension in the air that I couldn't quite place, a coldness in his eyes that I had never seen before. "Derek, slow down," I said, gripping the door handle as the car sped around another sharp curve. "The roads are dangerous in this weather." He didn't respond. His jaw was clenched, and his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I felt a flutter of anxiety in my chest. We had been arguing more frequently in recent months, mostly about money and his increasingly distant behavior. But tonight felt different. Tonight felt dangerous. "Derek, please," I said again, my voice trembling. "What's wrong? Talk to me." He finally glanced at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood run cold. There was no warmth, no love, just a calculated emptiness that sent chills down my spine. Before I could say another word, he jerked the steering wheel hard to the right. The car veered off the road, crashing through the guardrail and plunging down the steep embankment. Everything happened in slow motion. The sound of metal scraping against rock, the shattering of glass, the screaming of my own voice as the car tumbled down the hillside. Then, darkness. When I regained consciousness, I was lying in a ravine, surrounded by twisted metal and broken glass. My body screamed in pain, and I could taste blood in my mouth. The rain continued to fall, soaking through my clothes and chilling me to the bone. I tried to move, but my left leg was trapped under a piece of the wreckage. Panic surged through me as I realized how badly I was hurt. "Derek!" I called out, my voice weak and hoarse. "Derek, help me!" Through the rain and darkness, I saw him. He was standing at the top of the embankment, looking down at me. For a moment, I felt a wave of relief. He would help me. He would call for help. But then he turned and walked away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I called out to him again, screaming his name until my throat was raw. But he didn't come back. He just left me there to die. The hours that followed were the longest of my life. I drifted in and out of consciousness, the cold seeping into my bones, the pain becoming unbearable. I thought about my life, about all the things I had taken for granted. I thought about my grandmother, Margaret, who had raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. She had been my rock, my everything, and she had passed away just 6 months earlier. As I lay there in the darkness, I made a promise to myself. If I survived this, I would find out why Derek had done this to me. I would make him pay. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital room in Portland. The beeping of machines filled the air, and the sterile smell of antiseptic burned my nostrils. My entire body ached, and when I tried to move, a sharp pain shot through my leg. I looked down and saw that my left leg was in a cast, elevated and wrapped in bandages. A nurse entered the room, her eyes widening when she saw that I was awake. "Oh my goodness, you're awake!" she exclaimed, rushing to my side. "Let me get the doctor." Within minutes, the room was filled with medical staff, all asking me questions and checking my vital signs. Dr. Mitchell, a kind-looking man in his 50s, explained that I had been found by a hiker who had seen the wreckage from a trail above the ravine. I had suffered a broken leg, 3 cracked ribs, a concussion, and severe hypothermia. They told me I was lucky to be alive, but I didn't feel lucky. I felt betrayed, angry, and confused. When the police came to take my statement, I told them everything. I told them about Derek's strange behavior, about how he had deliberately driven off the road, about how he had left me there to die. The officers exchanged glances. "Mrs. Morrison, we need to ask you something," one of them said gently. "Your husband reported you missing the night of the accident. He said you had gone out for a walk and never came back. He's been playing the concerned husband, doing interviews with local news stations, organizing search parties." My stomach turned. Derek was playing the victim, the grieving husband. He had tried to kill me and was now pretending to be devastated by my disappearance. The rage that flooded through me was unlike anything I had ever felt before. "He tried to murder me," I said, my voice shaking with emotion. "He drove that car off the road on purpose, and then he left me there to die. I saw him standing there, looking down at me, and he just walked away." The investigation began immediately, but Derek was clever. He had covered his tracks well. There were no witnesses, no concrete evidence that he had intentionally caused the accident. His lawyer argued that I was confused, that the trauma and head injury had distorted my memories. The case became a matter of my word against his. During my recovery, I stayed with my best friend Rachel in her apartment in the Pearl District. She had been my closest friend since college, and she was the only person I trusted completely. Rachel was a paralegal at a downtown law firm, and she helped me navigate the legal nightmare that my life had become. "Elena, there has to be a reason he did this," Rachel said one evening as we sat in her living room, sipping tea. "People don't just try to kill their spouses for no reason." I had been thinking the same thing. Derek and I had a comfortable life. We weren't wealthy, but we were doing well, unless my grandmother's estate. Margaret had been a successful real estate investor, and she had left everything to me in her will. The estate was substantial, worth several $1,000,000, including properties throughout Portland and a beautiful house in the West Hills. "The inheritance," I whispered. He knew about my grandmother's will. If I died, everything would go to him as my spouse. Rachel's eyes widened. "Elena, you need to talk to your grandmother's attorney. Now." The next day, I met with Thomas Brennan, the lawyer who had handled my grandmother's estate. He was a distinguished man in his 60s, with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His office was located in a historic building downtown, with large windows overlooking the Willamette River. "Mrs. Morrison, I'm so relieved to see you alive," Mr. Brennan said, as I settled into the leather chair across from his desk. "When I heard about the accident, I feared the worst." "Mr. Brennan, I need to know about my grandmother's will," I said. "Specifically, what happens if I die?" His expression grew serious. "Your grandmother was very specific in her instructions. If something were to happen to you before you claimed the full inheritance, everything would go to your spouse. However, there's a clause that many people don't know about. Your grandmother included a provision that if there were any suspicious circumstances surrounding your death, an investigation would be launched, and the inheritance would be held in trust until the matter was resolved." My grandmother had been wise. She had protected me even after her death. "There's something else you should know," Mr. Brennan continued. "The final reading of the will is scheduled for next month. There are some additional assets that haven't been distributed yet, including a significant investment portfolio. Your presence is required." An idea began to form in my mind. Derek thought I was dead. He had been preparing to claim my inheritance, playing the grieving widower. But I was very much alive, and I was going to make sure he knew it in the most dramatic way possible. The following weeks were spent in careful preparation. I needed to stay hidden until the will reading. If Derek discovered I was alive too soon, he might flee or destroy evidence. Rachel helped me create a new temporary identity, and I stayed out of sight, recovering from my injuries and building my case. During this time, I hired a private investigator named Marcus Chen. Marcus was a former detective with the Portland Police Bureau, and he had a reputation for being thorough and discreet. I needed him to dig into Derek's life, to find evidence of what he had done and why. What Marcus discovered was worse than I had imagined. Derek had been living a double life. He had been having an affair with a woman named Vanessa, a client from his financial advising firm. They had been together for over 2 years, meeting in expensive hotels and restaurants while I was at home, completely oblivious. But it went deeper than infidelity. Marcus found evidence that Derek had been embezzling money from his clients, including my grandmother. He had been stealing from her investment accounts for years, covering his tracks with false statements and manipulated records. When Margaret died and I inherited everything, Derek panicked. An audit of the accounts would reveal his crimes, and he would go to prison. "He needed you gone," Marcus explained as we sat in Rachel's apartment, reviewing the documents. "If you died, he would inherit everything as your spouse, and he could cover up the embezzlement. No one would question the grieving widower managing his dead wife's estate." The anger I felt was consuming, but I channeled it into determination. Derek had underestimated me. He thought he could erase me and steal what my grandmother had worked so hard to build. But I was going to expose him for exactly what he was. As the date of the will reading approached, I worked with Mr. Brennan to ensure everything was in place. We coordinated with the police, providing them with all the evidence Marcus had gathered. They agreed to have officers present at the will reading, ready to arrest Derek once I revealed myself. The night before the reading, I stood in front of Rachel's bathroom mirror, looking at my reflection. My injuries had healed, though I still walked with a slight limp. My hair had grown longer, and there were new lines around my eyes from the stress and trauma. But I was alive, and I was stronger than I had ever been. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" Rachel asked, appearing in the doorway. "I've been ready since the moment he left me in that ravine," I replied. The day of the will reading arrived with clear November skies. The leaves had turned brilliant shades of orange and gold, and there was a crispness in the air that felt like a new beginning. Mr. Brennan's office had been set up for the reading, with chairs arranged in a semicircle facing his desk. I arrived early, entering through a back entrance so I wouldn't be seen. Mr. Brennan had prepared a private room for me where I could wait until the right moment. Through a crack in the door, I could see into the main office where the reading would take place. Derek arrived exactly on time, dressed in an expensive black suit. He looked thinner than I remembered, his face drawn and tired. But there was also something eager in his expression, an anticipation that made my skin crawl. Vanessa was with him, playing the role of the supportive friend, though I could see the way she touched his arm, the intimate glances they shared. Also present were several of my grandmother's distant relatives, people who had barely known her but hoped to receive something from her estate. They whispered among themselves, casting curious glances at Derek. Mr. Brennan began the reading, going through the standard legal language and preliminary distributions. Small amounts were designated for various charities my grandmother had supported. Then he got to the main portion of the estate. The bulk of Margaret Ashford's estate, including all properties, investment accounts, and personal belongings, are bequeathed to her granddaughter, Elena Morrison, Mr. Brennan read. Derek nodded, trying to look sorrowful. "My poor Elena," he said, his voice catching. "She would have been so grateful for her grandmother's generosity." "Would have been?" Mr. Brennan asked, raising an eyebrow. "She passed away 2 months ago," Derek said, dabbing at his eyes with a handkerchief. "It was a tragic accident. She went for a walk one evening and fell into a ravine. By the time they found her, it was too late." The room fell silent. Several people murmured sympathetically, and Vanessa squeezed Derek's shoulder. "I see," Mr. Brennan said slowly. "That is indeed tragic. However, I have some interesting news." This was my moment. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and opened the door. The sound of the doorknob turning made everyone look up, and I stepped into the room. The effect was instantaneous. Derek's face went completely white, his eyes bulging in disbelief. He half rose from his chair, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Vanessa let out a small scream, backing away from me as if I were a ghost. "Hello, Derek," I said, my voice calm and steady. "Surprised to see me?" The room erupted in chaos. People were talking all at once, asking questions, expressing shock. But I kept my eyes locked on Derek, watching as the realization washed over him. He knew that everything was over. "Elena, you're alive," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "I thought, they said they couldn't find you." "You mean you hoped they couldn't find me?" I corrected him. "You left me in that ravine to die, Derek. You drove our car off that road deliberately, and then you stood there and watched me suffer before you walked away." "That's not true," he shouted, finally finding his voice. "You're confused. You hit your head. I would never—" "Stop lying," I cut him off. "I know everything. I know about Vanessa. I know about the money you stole from my grandmother's accounts. I know that you tried to kill me so you could inherit my estate and cover up your crimes." Vanessa had tears streaming down her face. "Derek, what is she talking about?" she asked, her voice shaking. Derek ignored her, his eyes darting toward the door. But 2 police officers stepped into the room, blocking his exit. Detective Sarah Rodriguez, who had been leading the investigation into my case, moved forward with handcuffs. "Derek Morrison, you're under arrest for attempted murder, embezzlement, and fraud," she said, her voice authoritative. "You have the right to remain silent." As the detective read Derek his rights, I watched the man I had once loved crumble before me. He tried to protest, to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. Marcus had done his job well, and every piece of documentation, every witness statement, Every financial record painted a clear picture of Derek's guilt. They let him out in handcuffs, and Vanessa followed, sobbing and demanding answers. The relatives who had come for the will reading sat in stunned silence, unsure of what to do or say. When the room finally cleared, it was just Mr. Brennan, Rachel, and me. I sank into a chair, the adrenaline that had been carrying me through the confrontation finally fading. Rachel wrapped her arms around me, and I allowed myself to cry for the first time since the accident. These weren't tears of sadness, though. They were tears of relief, of release, of survival. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you," Mr. Brennan said gently. "She always said you had her strength and determination." She was right. Over the following months, Derek's trial became one of the most talked about cases in Portland. The evidence against him was damning, and his lawyers struggled to mount any kind of defense. The media coverage was intense, with reporters calling me a survivor, a hero. But I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt like someone who had refused to let evil win. Derek was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Vanessa, who had been unaware of the extent of his crimes, cooperated with prosecutors and avoided charges. I never spoke to her, though I heard she left Portland and started a new life somewhere on the East Coast. As for me, I claimed my grandmother's inheritance and used it to honor her memory. I established a foundation in her name that helped survivors of domestic violence and attempted murder. I sold the house in the West Hills, unable to live there with the memories of Derek, and bought a beautiful craftsman home in the Alphabet District. Rachel and I remained as close as ever, and she eventually left her paralegal job to help me run the foundation. Together, we created something meaningful from the tragedy, turning pain into purpose. Sometimes, on rainy October evenings, I think about that night in the ravine. I think about how close I came to dying, how Derek's cruelty almost succeeded. But then I look at everything I've built, everyone I've helped, and I realize that surviving was only the beginning. I learned that resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up, even when someone has tried to bury you. It's about taking the worst moment of your life and transforming it into your greatest strength. My name is Elena Morrison, and I am a survivor. Derek tried to erase me, to steal my future and my grandmother's legacy, but I'm still here, stronger than ever, living a life filled with purpose and meaning. And every day that I wake up, every person that our foundation helps, is a reminder that love and justice can triumph over betrayal and greed. The rain still falls in Portland, just as it did that terrible night. But now, when I hear it tapping against my windows, I don't feel fear. I feel gratitude. I'm alive. I'm free. And I've claimed not just my inheritance, but my life.